The Buffs lost this weekend in a heartbreaker to Kansas State, 31-28. This was their first loss in the Big 12 Conference, and they now move to 4-2 on the season. Welcome to Buffs Banter,
your source for Colorado football. Let's
go
Buffs! Before we get into the action, we want to give a huge shout out to our official sponsor, Tuk Tuk Bites. Not only are they offering frozen naan and other great game day snacks, but they have a great restaurant right here in Boulder, Colorado. So whether you're grabbing takeout or planning a night out, Tuk Tuk Bites has you covered. Check them out.
Welcome to Buffs Banter, presented by Believe Network. I'm the host, Dean Frank, here with my partner, Oscar Gonzalez-Moore. Today, we are excited to welcome Ryan from DNVR Sports, one of the most credible Buffs media platforms out there, with over 90K followers on YouTube and full access to the press conferences and interviews with the Shedeur Sanders-led football team. Ryan, thanks for being here, man. We wish it was a different outcome coming after this loss, but we're excited to pick your brain. And yeah, how's everything going?
It's going good, man. Thank you guys for having me. Love what you guys are doing here, and keep up the grind. That was a tough loss for sure. I'm still trying to pick myself up off the ground from that one.
Sure, I know. We were both at the game yesterday, and just walking back after the game, we were both speechless. We were just trying to talk about what just happened, because back and forth, and then we had the chance, we were winning. They drove and scored on us in a minute, and it just felt like everything got out of hand in a second. But I guess just to start it off, very general. After this loss, what are the expectations for this team going forward? Do we have to win out if we want to get into the Big 12 Conference Championship? How do you see this team after this loss?
Yeah, man. It's funny because of who the Buffs are, like every time they lost, everyone wants to dunk on them and, go crazy. And as fans, I think sometimes it can start to feel like these losses are worse than they are. But, the Buffs lost to the favorites to win the conference by 3 points in a crazy game. And it just happens sometimes, you know what I mean? And when you look back, it's like, okay, they do it without Travis Hunter, without Jimmy Horn. You lose Omari and Miller during the game. I don't think the expectations change much. I think that a 2-loss conference team is going to make the Big 12 championship. I don't think that you're going to see any of these teams go undefeated in conference. So to me, it's going to be a 1-loss team versus a 2-loss team, which means you got a lot less room for error than you did before. But the more I process that game, and I think, I'm not sure if you guys are Broncos fans, but watching the Broncos game today, they lose Pat Surtain early. And all of a sudden, especially watching it on TV rather than being in the stadium, you notice how much losing your best player, especially on the defensive side of the ball, changes the way you can do things. The Broncos were forced to play a lot more zone. And the further away you get from that game, you just hope, okay, let's, pray that Travis is healthy. Because I think when he is healthy, it's clear that the Buffs are right there, if not, one of the best teams in the Big 12.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. I think last night the loss stung more than it should have, and is still stinging because, like you said, we lost half of our wide receiver core. The tackling was dog shit. All those things going wrong. We were still up at the end of the game, with a good chance to win it. And then 3 plays later, we're losing the ball game again. I also will say, I don't know how you feel about this, Dean, but being in the student section last night, it just felt like the vibes were not there. That was the most empty I'd seen the student section. Every single time I looked across, there was so much purple. It felt like they were getting so much louder. And yeah, I don't know. As students, I guess, I hope for the next home game when we play Cincinnati for Parents Weekend, we bring more energy, because for me, that was borderline unacceptable. People were going home when we were down 7-21. And if you were watching that ball game, we were in it the entire time. Just because we were down 2 tuds doesn't mean that we weren't playing similar level ball as KSU. So
yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up, because I kind of felt the same way. Obviously, during the interception and the touchdown to take the lead, like the crowd was crazy. But there was times during that game where I'm like, man, we just need a little more juice from the fans right now, and obviously the students lead that. I don't know if it's like maybe like a lack of ball knowledge in the student section or what, but it's like sometimes it feels like one play goes against the Buffs and all of the air gets sucked out of the stadium. And maybe it's because like people's expectations are so high for this team, or I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I feel it too, where it's like it feels like if the defense gives up one first down, then the crowd kind of just like takes a break, and it's weird.
It's funny that you say lack of ball knowledge, because I completely agree with that. There were these guys standing behind me, and it's like every first down, I mean, we tried to run the ball for a bit before we gave up, but they're like, why are we running the ball? Like, just pass it. And it's just like what do you want from us? You know, I think people don't like, they see the Shedeur magic that happens pretty much every game, and they expect that every game. And I mean, at what point I expected as well. I mean, we were down for, I guess, going into that second half, we're down multiple touchdowns, and still felt like Shedeur was going to find a way. I guess the good takeaway from this game, he ended up with 388 and 3 touchdowns. I mean, obviously we can talk about that pick as well, but he put us in this game, and I don't think any blame should be on him. I think he was very mature in the press conference after the game as well. And I think just week in, week out, Shedeur shows that he is the best quarterback in the country, and he's NFL league ready. I think it's just hard without Travis. I mean, I want to say we win if Travis is playing.
Absolutely, I agree. And Shedeur is unbelievable, man. And you're right about what you were saying. Like, you go out there with him as your quarterback any given week, you have a chance to win that football game. It doesn't matter who you're going against. But at the same time, I think some of it was, or I guess some of last year's problems were exposed yesterday, which is like, if you can't and won't run the ball at all, you're going to put him in a bad situation. And that KSU defensive line has not been great. I don't think they have any guys on that defensive line that are like individually great pass rushers. But when a defense knows exactly what you're trying to do and they can just pin their ears back, it gives them a much better chance. And so Shedeur was able to pull off the magic. I don't know if you guys saw this, but he set a school record for most consecutive completions last night. It was 16 in a row at one point. He's going to give you the magic, but at the same time, you do have to just kind of like take your medicine and run the football to keep the defense guessing. You know, that the UCF game is a perfect example. Is like, you start getting that run game going and you make the defense guess a little bit. And now you give Shedeur an extra half second to get rid of the ball. And some of those plays, like the one late to Draylon Miller, like there's ones that open up when you have that extra half second to deliver the football. So I think last night was maybe another refresher for this offensive staff of just like, hey, you're going to have to figure out a way to run the ball and continue to try to run the ball. I mean, I thought they gave it a decent effort in like the first 2 drives and then pulled away from it. You end up with 10 designed runs for running backs in that game. It's just too low. But going back to your original point, like, Shedeur's incredible, and he's going to find a way to make magic for you out there. We just got to figure out the best way to put him in a good position.
Yeah, I think this, compared to last year, this is a completely upgraded team, but the formula, the recipe to beat this team is still the same, which is run the ball, keep Shedeur on the sidelines. And if you do that, you have a decent chance of beating this Colorado football team, regardless of how much better we have gotten. I mean, like, if we can't run the ball, and I'm sorry, DJ Givens, he had, what did he go for, Dean? 180?
180.
Like, it was 125 at the half. It was disgusting, I mean, and when something like that happens, it's tough to win these ball games, even with Shedeur magic and this team being the reality TV show it is. I think, like, when we got the ball back, honestly, a lot of people, after KSU had gone down and took the lead back, and we got the ball back with like 5 minutes, I think, in the fourth quarter, I think a lot of people were really optimistic about that, more than they maybe should have, after losing a wide receiver, half your wide receiver core, the best player in college football included in that. And yeah, I mean, there's only so much he can do, and like we can talk about a potential PI being called at the end of the game that the refs might have missed, but like at the end of the day, we were shorthanded. We did not do nearly enough to stop the run. And these are the consequences that happen. We can't just bank on Shedeur to bail us out with a Hail Mary or a game-winning drive every game, especially against a team like Kansas State.
Absolutely. Going back to your original point about stopping the run, um, I don't think they're going to face a team as good at running the ball, and I don't think they're going to face a running back as good as DJ Giddens again this season.
Would you
I
take
thought
Harvey, RJ Harvey over DJ Giddens? Like that was just frustrating for me because RJ up until that game looked like a top 5 back in the country, and now like DJ obviously is no one like he's not a nobody, but like I did not think he was on RJ Harvey's level, and then he gives us 180. So I'm curious what you think about that.
Yeah, I'd take Giddens, honestly. I think he was averaging like 7.4 yards per carry, something crazy coming into that game. Like he's nasty. And what I guess wasn't expecting that he was able to do was some of the individual just shiftiness and jukes and moves to kind of get out of there. That I didn't really see RJ Harvey make many of those individual plays, but it felt like there was times where the Buffs had it crash down on, had a guy in the hole to make a play, and he was able to just like make a nice little jump cut and get out of there. So, like I said, I don't think you're going to face a team that's as much of a threat. And Avery Johnson, he didn't do it as much as I thought he would, but he's also a massive threat, which causes your backside defensive end to just have to stay home pretty much all night. And makes it harder to crash down on the run. So I'm still optimistic about the run defense. I think that they've been good in every game but one now, and because of that, I don't think you're going to see another team that is able to do what Kansas State did on them.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about our defense. We know that our linebackers have stepped up for us all year. Nikai Hill-Green, Bentley, and all those guys. We got to talk about this guy, Shiloh Sanders. 16 missed tackles as a team. Obviously, not all with Shiloh. We saw the one of him just missing the tackle, just putting him on the ground pretty much. How much of this game was Shiloh just being rusty? How much of it is should we keep Carter Stoudemire in the game? Because the past couple of weeks, our defense has been outstanding. How much of this, I guess, was on Shiloh, and how much of it was Kansas State just being a great running team?
Yeah, it's unfortunate with Shiloh. I think it was rust. I think that Shiloh is a really good football player, and he has shown that time and time again. The Shiloh that we saw last night is not the Shiloh we have seen before. He's not a perfect player by any stretch of the mind, but usually when Shiloh's not playing his best, or when Shiloh misses plays, it's like his head full of steam, playing with his hair on fire, and he just misses a play or he just misses a tackle. Last night, I didn't feel like he had his full confidence and his full aggressiveness that you normally see. And like I can live with players who make aggressive mistakes. Last night, I felt like he was a little tentative and not playing, with the normal kind of tenacious nature that he normally does. So I'm going to chalk that up to rust, but it's definitely something that you have to keep a close eye on. I mean, Coach Prime said it himself after the game. He was horrible. So I think it's something where it's like, okay, Shiloh, we need you to get this right this week. Or we may have to, see what happens if we put Carter Stoudemire back out there.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say on that performance. It's unfortunate because I felt like, not that he ruined the chemistry on the defensive side. Like clearly we were missing the best player in college football, as we've said before, but he comes back from injury. He doesn't play well. Obviously the media is going to rip him a new one. I mean, it's Deion's kid, but yeah, that was just, man, like watching the highlights, just watching him miss tackles, get juked, like, it's hard. It's hard, especially because last year Shiloh was like, we had like Trevor Woods and Shiloh, I feel like, on the defensive side of the ball. Like those were like the guys. And now it's like I don't know. He gets injured. And it's tough because this defense is really like fluid right now. And it's going to be a tough decision, not only because he's a good player, but his dad is the coach. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future with Shiloh and his minutes. One thing I do want to ask you about, Ryan, though, is BJ Green. Man, this had been a guy that had been super hyped up, I guess, at the beginning of the season. We were kind of waiting. We've been waiting for a game like this that he had yesterday all season. Do you think he is going to be like a key part of this defense now after that game? Because I was very impressed with him, and it could not have been more timely, especially considering some of the injuries we had last game. But yeah, I'm just curious to pick your brain on BJ.
Yeah, man. That was an awesome performance from him, and he's kind of shown flashes throughout the season of being able to have a game like that. But one thing that is kind of odd about the way the schedule has worked out so far is almost every single team that you've played so far is a run first team. And obviously BJ is a great pass rusher. He also plays the run pretty well as well, but you haven't been able to play a team yet that wants to throw the ball. Arizona, who you have obviously coming up this weekend, will be the most pass-focused team you have played yet. And so I think all of these pass rushers are probably licking their chops, hoping they can finally, get significantly more pass rush reps in a game. That being said, you're going to have to stop the run because I'm sure that's what Arizona is going to want to do first and foremost. But I think that you're going to see a big game from BJ Green this next weekend as well. And hopefully maybe a couple other guys like Sam Okunlola, and maybe they get Dayon Hayes back as well.
Yeah, we got Arizona and Cincinnati coming up before another bye. I guess while we have you on, I would love to hear just some expectations, maybe predictions for records going forward. I mean, I think Kansas State was probably the toughest team we'll have to face all year. I mean, we know up to this point, they were the only ranked team we played, and we beat them. We would be ranked right now. So I guess looking forward after this loss, do you see us winning out possibly?
It's on the table. I got to know what's up with Travis first. And, I talked to some people today and still haven't really gotten a clear picture of what exactly the injury was that kept him out. So, hopefully we'll find out before, but at the very least, we might get an update from coach on Tuesday. But I think you should win these next two games. Going down to Tucson, you're playing, like I said, a talented team, probably the second best passing team behind you in the conference. And so that's a new challenge. We'll see how they face it. But you should get that one. And then I think you should get Cincinnati as well. So, right now it's tough just because you're coming off a loss. But I think you get those two, you go back into a bye, get a chance to get healthy with whatever you still have of guys being banged up at that point. And then it's an interesting kind of challenge down the stretch at the end of the season. But when you looked at this schedule at the beginning of the season, some of those challenges seemed a lot bigger than they do now. No one knew that Kansas was going to be as hapless as they have been this year. Oklahoma State is not the team that we thought they were. Even Utah does not look as strong as they have in the past. So, you got to get yourself up off the mat this week as fast as possible, because I do believe that if you get this one, you can get the momentum back moving in the right direction. You get a home game and then a bye week before you go into that big stretch. And hopefully, I think all you can ask for as a fan or even as a team is that those last couple games have, championship game implications as you go into them.
I think too, it's just like leading up expectations, kind of like you just said. These were games that we thought we would maybe lose going into it. And now it feels like after we've seen this team play to its full potential at UCF, I mean, we know what this team is capable of. And like you said, the injuries are just going to kill us. I mean, we don't know too much about Travis. Jimmy Horn was knocked up as well. So is Amarion Miller, who had a game on his own, 185. And I mean, if we could somehow get like this wide receiver room is just so deep, like even having these three starters out, or I guess Amarion wasn't starting at the time, but he went crazy. We're able to, next man up. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see going into this next week who is healthy or not. And yeah, I guess to close it off, just takeaways from the game that you were maybe something that was like super unexpected that happened I mean, I know we were expecting a big run game, but our running defense up to this point had been pretty good. So for us to, let up a bunch of yards on the ground and miss tackles, I guess that just shouldn't have happened. In a way, it felt like we beat ourselves this game.
Yeah, to me, the most surprising thing was the missed tackles, because that's been a strength for these guys. And it's interesting because you look back at their worst tackling performance before this, and I think it was probably North Dakota State. And that's normal. Your first game of the season, you're going to have to knock some of that rust off and get back into the groove of playing full speed football. And I just wonder if maybe the bye week accumulated a little rust in that regard as well. So I don't expect to see that happening. Like Cam Silman-Craig is a sure tackler. He's not gonna have that happen. Shiloh, when he is at his best, he led the team in tackles last season. Nakai Hill-Green, Levante Bentley, all these guys are good tackling players. So I was surprised to see all of that, and it really, really hurt them last night. And like we mentioned, somehow, some way, after all that, they had the lead with less than 4 minutes left in the football game. But I think moving forward, you're going to see this team tackle a lot better, and they need to, because last night was unacceptable.
Yeah. I think we've covered most of the big things. Something I feel like not a lot of people are paying attention to, and is kind of funny, but also optimistic, is Mark Vassett going to get drafted. I mean, that guy was drilling punts, man. Like 2 in the 20, like averaging, I think it was like 48 yards per punt. Those were beautiful punts. So shout out Mark, shout out the special teams unit, my guy Camden. But yeah, those were some joy we could get during that second quarter onslaught run by KSU. I was just like, great punt, Mark. Come on, baby. That's going to get you to the league.
Yeah, mate, as Coach Prime calls him. I honestly think he has a great chance to play in the NFL, and not just because of his ability to pin it deep, but also he's a big athlete. He's like 6'4", 6'5". And a lot of these NFL teams like to see that. Like they're probably going to see untapped potential in his ability as a kicker. So I'll be pulling for him because he's one of the nicest guys on the team.
Before we close, I got to ask, seeing that RV, the customized RV that you guys got, how has that been? I mean, we can definitely pull up a post if y'all haven't seen it, but I mean, the customized RV going across the country, watching these games, I mean, it feels like a dream.
Yeah, no, it's true. It truly is a dream. I kind of mentioned it randomly on a podcast last year, like how sick would it be if we did this? And the ball kind of started getting rolling, and we were able to get some sponsors to back it, and found a place who would make it for us. So it's been unbelievable, man. And this next week should be really fun. It's one of our longer trips. So we're splitting it up. We're going to go on Thursday, drive down to Albuquerque, have some good New Mexican food, and then head down to Tucson. So I'm excited for this one. I think it's going to be the one that we have the time to make the most amount of content on there. And that was like the whole idea, is just like, let's turn it into like a mobile content machine. So hopefully we're going to get some players out on the bus to like play some college football 25 and just have a good time. It truly has been a dream come true.
Yeah, like Oscar said, I mean, this team is literally a reality show. So covering it, like from us having our podcast, it's been awesome watching y'all. Much respect to everything you're doing. Keep it up. I mean, it's a tough loss, but I think we bounce back. I know this team definitely has the potential. If we've seen what they did last week, I think against UCF a couple weeks ago, we can keep it rolling. I still got high hopes for this team. Oscar, any words to close it off?
This tough loss, but I think I'm happy. I'm optimistic about the future, and this one won't come as much energy, but it's always same vibes. Go Buffs!
I love it. Like we saw last night in the game, I think applies to this team on the whole. Like they're resilient. I don't think you can count them out at any point. So I think that we've seen them take a tough loss at Nebraska and they bounce right back. I think we see them do it again this week.
Yes, sir. We appreciate you, Ryan. If y'all don't follow him already, Denver Sports, Denver Buffs, great content as always. We appreciate y'all. Let's go Buffs.
Let's go Buffs.